Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the North American Unitarian Association's August worship service. NAUA is a member service organization dedicated to supporting and promoting the practice of liberal religion by embracing freedom, reason, and tolerance, rooted in our commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every person and all peoples. We have just a few announcements before we begin, and I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Now, never fear, I'm not going to read through all of those, um, but I do want to talk about a couple of the circles in particular. NAUA has a multitude of circles, groups that meet regularly for conversation or debate and for meaningful connection. Whether you're a longtime member or simply curious, you'll find a welcoming space to listen, share, and connect. The circles listed here are happening between now and next month's service. Some circles are full and not accepting new participants, and I'm not listing them here. Those participants can check the dates of their next meeting on the website. The circles shown here are either open with registration or drop in without any registration at all. And there are two in particular that we want to call attention to. The first is the Joys and Sorrows Circles. This meets on the fourth Sunday of each month from 4 to 5 Pacific time. The next circle will be August 23rd. And this is a drop-in circle. You don't need to register. You can either go to the website and find the link or make a quick note here. It's tinyurl.com/NAUA circles. Life brings moments of celebration, gratitude, uncertainty, and loss. This circle offers a welcoming, confidential space to share whatever is on your heart. You might wish to share a joy or a recent blessing, a concern or a challenge, a gratitude, a sorrow, or a loss, or simply come to listen and be present with others. Together, we create a community of kindness, respect, and support where every story matters. Also, on Wednesday, September 2nd, is the first Wednesday conversation circle, which is returning after what seemed like a very long summer hiatus. And we're glad to have them back. They meet on the first Wednesday of each month. Again, that will be September 2nd at between 4 and 5:30 p.m. Pacific. This conversation circle is resuming after the summer hiatus. As we gather again, let's reconnect and explore where the North American Unitarian Association is today. We'll revisit a SWOT evaluation, looking at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we'll discuss questions such as what's working well, what could be stronger, how can members best engage, and what opportunities do you see for our community? Whether you have fresh ideas, thoughtful questions, or simply want to listen, your voice and your perspective are valued. We are looking for nominations for the NAUA board. At the Fall Summit, we'll be electing board trustees to fill up to 5 open board positions. The nominations committee, Roy Dickerson, Bob Simone, Joanne Creddick, is seeking nominations from the membership for the open positions. If you know of anyone who should be considered for a future board position, please email Roy Dickerson at president@naunitarians.org. Please include the name of the person you're nominating and the reason you're nominating them. Members are also invited to nominate themselves for a board position. If doing so, please submit your name, contact information, your reasons for wanting to join, and a resume or summary of your qualifications. And all submitted nominations will be reviewed by the nominating committee, and where appropriate, interviews will be scheduled to learn more about each candidate. I'm sure everybody here is aware of the terrible fires in eastern Washington. Although they did stop short of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, it came within, some reports say, a mile and a half, others say within a half mile of the church. And they do have a few members who have lost their homes, and many others have been evacuated or otherwise impacted. If you'd like to make a donation to help out these members, you can go to their website, uuspokane.org, go to their donate page and select Make a Donation. You'll be given an opportunity to tag the fund you'd like your donation to be applied to, click on Other, and type in Wildfire Relief. You can also simply write out a check made out to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane and write Donation Wildfire Relief in the memo line. And here's their address, and it's up on that slide, and I'll let that slide sit for just a minute in case somebody wants to write that address down. All right. Our speaker this month is JD Stillwater, who spoke to us a couple times last year, and we're very pleased to welcome him back here to our virtual pulpit. JD, a graduate of Cornell University, is a science ambassador and author who writes and speaks about profound insights from natural reality, insights that drive paradigm shifts and cultural awakening. This work springs from his love of science and his gift for making difficult concepts graspable for non-scientists. JD is an officer of the Religious Naturalist Association. He serves on the governing council of the Institute on Religion in an Age of Science and is a fellow of Sinai and Synapses, a select interfaith group of clergy, scientists, and writers who are committed to bridging the religious and scientific worlds, offering people a worldview that is scientifically grounded and spiritually uplifting. He will be speaking to us today on the subject of peace, love, understanding, and manure. All right, we can begin.
We light this candle of peace within our chalice of welcoming community, a flame of unity within diversity, the fire of our courage in seeking to understand one another.
Good morning. Our opening words today are from Margie Piercy, number 585 in the hymnal. We must sit down and reason together. Perhaps we should sit in the dark. In the dark, we could utter our feelings. In the dark, we could propose and describe and suggest. In the dark, we could not see who speaks, and only the words would say what they say. No one would speak more than twice. No one would speak less than once. Thus, saying what we feel and what we want, what we fear for ourselves and each other into the dark. Perhaps we could begin to listen. The woman must learn to dare to speak. The men must learn to bother to listen. The women must learn to say, I think this is so. The men must learn to stop dancing solos on the ceiling. After each speaks, she or he will say a final phrase, a ritual phrase. It is not I who speaks, but the wind. Wind blows through me. Long after me is the wind.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at peace. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at peace. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at peace. May we be whole.
Hello, our reading today is from the Gray Hymnal number 577 by Gandhi. If someone with courage and vision can rise to lead in nonviolent action, the winter of despair can, in the twinkling of an eye, be turned into the summer of hope. It is possible to live in peace. Nonviolence is not a garment to put on and off as will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being. It is possible to live in peace. If a single person achieves the highest kind of love, it will be sufficient to neutralize the hate of millions. It is possible to live in peace. If we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children. It is possible to live in peace. The future depends on what we do in the present. It is possible to live in peace.
Good morning. In 1986, I walked from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. on the Great Peace March for Global Nuclear Disarmament, and it was a pivotal year in my life in many ways, which is why it keeps coming up. And one of the lessons I learned that year, and seem to have to keep learning, goes by the shorthand Manure warehouse. But you need some background before I can even tell the story. The first organizer of the Great Peace March was a nonprofit called Pro Peace, short for People Reaching Out for Peace. And they attracted me with promises of 5,000 people living and traveling in a vast tent city of 5,000 people, 2,500 tents, walking from Los Angeles to DC en masse, with hot showers every morning, rock star concerts every night, and overwhelming impact. Well, we walked out of Los Angeles March 1st, on schedule, but with only about 1,200 people. A crippling lack of liability insurance, and Pro Peace staggering under $500,000 in debt that they hoped they could fundraise away once we were on the road. Well, 2 weeks later, as we walked into a little town called Barstow on the edge of the Mojave Desert, Pro Peace announced that they were bankrupt and told us all to go home. Well, about 2/3 of us did go home. What remained was a diverse group, and we all did what we could. So, the skilled mechanics removed essential parts from the trucks that pulled our kitchen and our porta potties, thereby stymieing some of the repo men that descended on our campsite immediately. The attorneys among us sought an injunction against further repossessions, arguing that 400 people needed that stuff to survive. And they quickly cobbled together a new 501c3. Those with commercial kitchen skills, including me, made food. Musicians played in local bars for tips that went to the march, and so on. The shower trucks got repossessed, and the media further relieved us of any glamour with gleeful headlines about the death of the Great Peace March. Nevertheless, we persisted. And 2 weeks later, we left Barstow and went out into the desert as a lean, scrappy, and often stinky band of 400 activists determined to walk to Washington, D.C. for global nuclear disarmament. Why am I telling you this now? The March community remains close, maybe about as close as soldiers who've experienced combat together. As I said, we were a diverse group, and although most of us remain committed to nonviolence and are mostly liberal politically, 40 years have gone by. Things change. I'm not sure why, but some marchers have come to see me as emblematic of something, and they write to me on Facebook Messenger. And until the last couple of years, those conversations were always respectful, even in strong disagreement. But in recent years, 2 of those conversations with Peace March buddies became extremely rude and crude, violent, and from my perspective, completely unhinged from reality. Well, after a while, I got kind of tired of being called horrible names in spite of being respectful myself. So I put these 2 guys together in a group chat. And I admit that I was partly motivated by entertainment value, but I honestly didn't know if they would mostly agree or disagree with each other. I just knew they were both passionate to the point of vehemence. Here's an excerpt from what ensued. Person A: I am too enlightened to be poisoning myself with that deranged, delusional, satanically insane, megalomaniac political bull beep. Got sublime soul, self-sovereign autonomy. I don't play brainless, satanic political games. Person B. I hate what you stand for, and I can choose to do so. I now clearly know your politics. We are diabolically opposed. The dumb old rat said that if Trump is elected, there will be civil war. Bring it on, Marxist. Well, this kind of talking past each other continues for pages and pages. One claiming to be so spiritually enlightened that he's above all politics, while flinging violent insults at everyone who isn't so enlightened. And the other one labeling anyone who criticizes our president as a Marxist and an enemy he is eager to gun down. Now, I cherry-picked the two excerpts I read to you in order to avoid the dozens of F-bombs and for being even marginally intelligible. And of course, you can't see the entire sentences in all caps and the 5 exclamation points in a row. To be fair, there may be some mental illness involved here. But you know, it kind of got to me how we had gotten to this point in a community of people who walked together for 9 months for peace. More importantly, I was dogged by the question of how to heal this. How do we heal this? Well, the thing is, I already know. I know because of something I witnessed on the march in a warehouse full of manure. Once we were out of the desert and over the Rockies, the marchers became deeply polarized around one particular issue that today, decades later, feels kind of petty and insignificant. But it was a big deal at the time. See, in the beginning, we had all walked together from campsite to campsite with banners and flags and a lot of fanfare. And as the days and miles wore on, the late night campfire talkers and the early to bed, early to rise folks naturally fell into distinct patterns. So early risers would get up with the sun and eat breakfast when it was served and leave with the flags at the regular time to walk to the next site. And in my memory, that was about half of us. The other half got up whenever they woke up, caught the end of breakfast or skipped it, and then hit the road when they felt like it. And this arrangement was great for preventing long lines at the porta potties and the water trailer in the mornings and at the kitchen truck for breakfast. It kind of spread out the workload for those who were loading up the trucks that carried our tents and duffels, which was especially helpful when it was raining. On the roads, it stretched the column of marchers out to miles long, visible throughout the day, but it also meant that drivers and local people along our route would see sporadic clumps of people walking with no banners or flags, nothing to explain who we were or why we were walking through their county. It also meant that the people serving lunch at the halfway point had to wait for a long time, which delayed their cleanup and the rest of their day. So began to split into these two polarized factions, those who thought we should march together in a unified group, and those who thought each marcher should have the freedom to walk when it was best for them. We called our ever-moving encampment of tents Peace City, and early on, the new board of directors delegated most decisions to the Peace City Council, which was elected periodically by the marchers. Well, at some point, the early risers brought a proposal to City Council that would require everyone to start walking at the appointed time in the morning. That didn't go over well, as you might imagine. But City Council's habit was to seek consensus whenever possible. So heated discussions about this motion ended by tabling the motion to the next meeting, where more people showed up and the discussion was more heated, and so on until the entire community was factionalized. It got more and more heated until it came to dominate conversations, and some people talked about just going home. If this doesn't yet sound like American politics today, let me add that there was a little bit of a generational split too. The Walk Together crowd tended to be older retirees and veterans of the civil rights era, while 20-something Gen Xers tended to favor walking when you want to. One afternoon, somewhere in eastern Colorado, at the height of this political storm, a real storm, complete with hail and tornado warnings, forced us to abandon our half-set-up tents and make a run for a sturdy metal roof building that stood next to the soggy farm field where Peace City was being erected. Relieved, all 500 of us ducked inside, only to have our noses inform us that it was a storage facility for fertilizer, the natural kind. They had manure from pigs, cows, chickens, bats, you name it, all in these separate piles, accessible by a front loader. The piles were warmer than warm. Some of them were steaming. So just try to imagine the smell in that building. But it was better than a surprise real-life casting in the roles of Dorothy and Toto. So we milled around in there as the storm raged outside. We realized it might be a while, but most of us were unwilling to sit anywhere in there. And mind you, some of us didn't smell a whole lot better than those piles, but still. Well, at some point, someone got an idea and they set up a microphone and a speaker. And they said something like, if you'd like to share your thoughts on the question of walking together, here's a microphone. Let's agree not to heckle each other, just get in line to speak, and otherwise, let's just listen. 2 minutes per speaker. Well, people got in line. Oh boy, did they get in line. As the hailstones roared down on the metal roof, people raged and stormed their anger and indignation into that microphone. It's a march, not a meander. Why the hell did you come on this if you aren't willing to make an impact? And how dare you try to legislate how I approach my activism? Hurtful things had been said, and there was a lot to express. It was both painful and cathartic. A lot of people would fill their 2 minutes and then immediately get right back in line to speak again. And both perspectives had valid points. You know, we'd come on this march to make an impact, and walking all strung out was diminishing that. On the other hand, people didn't give up a year of their lives just to be micromanaged by a bunch of control freaks. Besides, walking strung out allowed for deeper conversations with people on the sidelines and over breakfast in diners and coffee shops on the route. Many more arguments on both sides were marshaled that day, too many to describe here. But after a while that seemed like forever, the line got a bit shorter, and people started conceding points that they had previously rejected. The late walkers acknowledged that it wasn't actually too much to ask that they show up for breakfast when it was served, although they did not like the proposal to make it a requirement. The Walk Together folks conceded that there were some logistical and tactical advantages to walking spread out. Each of those little concessions created a tiny bit of political elbow room for actually considering the merits of the other perspective. The line got shorter and shorter until there were thoughtful pauses between speakers. By the end of the hailstorm outside, the political storm inside had ended too. The solution was obvious to everyone. No one proposed it, no one created it, no one enforced their will on anyone else. It was self-evident what we would do. We would choose to walk together when we walked through towns and cities, and we would walk however we each wanted through the rural countrysides. City mode and country mode. So perfect, we wondered why we hadn't thought of it sooner. That day in a manure warehouse somewhere on the vast plains of eastern Colorado, I learned that authentic sharing and open-hearted listening is the key not only to peace, but also to better solutions. Sometimes conceding the small truths we can admit in the other's perspective gives both parties the grace to seek another way, some way that isn't possible while entrenchment still rules the debate. Notice that the resolution to the march's divisive question of how to walk each day required no new rules, no city council decisions, no vote, no enforcement. It was obvious. Let me suggest that there may be similar solutions to questions like abortion and immigration. For example, liberals like me could admit that abortion isn't a universal good, and that it would be better for people to have all the tools they need to prevent unwanted pregnancies in the first place. If pro-lifers can succeed that the goal is to minimize the number of abortions rather than to control and punish sexuality, we might be able to work together to truly make abortion safe, legal, and rare. I think the pro-choice folks could emphasize the "and rare" part much more than we have. Are we sharing and listening vulnerably? Is it even safe to these days? Can we trust that our listening and sharing won't be weaponized, and that being vulnerable might give permission for the other side to soften too? Is there enough goodwill, enough common cause to take shelter together in this room full of manure and just talk? Can we handle the stench long enough to really hear one another? Are we curious enough to rise out of our manure piles and consider new options that might benefit everyone? Manure can smell bad, but the nutrients it contains are tremendously valuable to farmers. And poop plays a huge role in the evolution and sustainability of ecosystems, from fish poop to bird guano to buffalo chips. I don't know how big a role the manure in that building played that day, but I can't help but notice that the combination of the storm and the manure forced us into an uncomfortable context, one where we didn't have much choice but to talk and listen. Are we there yet in American politics? It seems to me that the pace of threatening change is kind of like the storm, and our social media landscape is like the piles of manure, disgusting and stinky, but also rich with potential. After days of vitriol between my two fanatical friends on Messenger, I chimed back in to remind them about that day in the manure warehouse. One of them conceded that they could be a better listener and made moves in that direction. The other one continued to insist that we were both his enemies and that anyone not in support of Trump is by definition a Marxist and therefore deserving prison or worse. As I said, mental illness might be a factor here. I probably can't achieve reconciliation with everyone. The question is, am I able to engage my curiosity enough to listen compassionately? Listening doesn't imply agreement. In these times, authentic, earnest listening may be all we have. The best part of the story is that on November 15, 1986, the Great Peace March for Global Nuclear Disarmament walked into Washington, D.C., 20,000 strong and on schedule. We had crossed endless cornfields in country mode, enjoying the scenery and good conversation in leisurely singles and pairs. We had marched in a loud, compact, unmistakable column through small towns like Coralville, Iowa, and down the glass canyons of big ones like Chicago and Cleveland and New York. And this summer, just a few weeks ago, we celebrated 40 years at a reunion in Western New York. Tom Atlee, a fellow marcher and founder of the Co-Intelligence Institute, says that he marks that day in the manure warehouse as the birth of the Institute. He later wrote, and this is a quote within a quote, he said, quote, "In 1992, I was browsing through Jerry Mander's book, In the Absence of the Sacred, when a quote leapt off the page. It was from Aaron Lyons, faithkeeper of the Turtle Clan of the Onondaga Iroquois, describing traditional tribal councils. He said, quote, "We meet and just keep talking until there's nothing left but the obvious truth." And that's the end of Aaron Lyons' quote. And Tom goes on, "I recognized that we'd stumbled upon something that the Iroquois have known for hundreds of years." End quote. You know, it doesn't seem like it should be that hard to just listen, but I struggle to do it over and over again. May we continue to stumble upon and apply this ancient and priceless human technology of genuine listening and sharing, and keep it close to heart as we weather the present storms. May it be so. Hidden off to one side of the muddy meadow of our next conflict is a malodorous metaphorical warehouse full of manure. Let us stop setting up our tent of self-righteousness and seek shelter in its smelly shadows. Let us find that lonely microphone of reconciliation and invite our opponents to speak into it. Let us listen, hearts open, and take turns speaking bravely while the storms of life rage around us. Love will guide us. Let us watch for treasures that may emerge from a palace of poop. Go in peace and go in love. Manure is optional.
I really want to thank JD. That was a great service today. Thanks so much.